1 minute, you had 100,000 influencers helping you to promote your product. Seriously, 100,000 influencers. You're probably thinking to yourself, how on earth would that even be possible, right? I mean, I sure would, but I just learned a secret from Megan Neugebauer, whose business, Shop Resin Molds, is proof they are, as they say, riches is in the niches. Get ready to learn how she did it, her product inventory strategy, and why she's really looking forward to have her husband spit out his beer. Are you intrigued? Great, let's get started. Hey, this is Alison. I'm so glad you're tuning in and joining me on today's podcast today. Wait, is tuning in even a thing with podcasting, or is that a radio? I don't know. Anyway, I'm just glad that you're here today because I'm being joined by Megan Neugebauer, who's built a great business finding, creating, and selling beautiful molds using to form epoxy resin pieces. And it is a super niche market. And Megan is going to show how she discovered it, what she's learned since launching her online store, shopresinmolds.com. You ready? On your mark, get set, let's go. Megan, I'm so glad you're here. Will you dive in and tell everybody about how you got started?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Alison. I'm just so excited that you asked me to be on your podcast. I first started out painting furniture. My husband is a Lutheran church Missouri Synod pastor, and we have 5 kids. And I was really looking to bring in some extra income. You know, I'm still a stay-at-home mom, and we just needed I wanted to first just buy the groceries, let's make some money. I'll pay for the groceries. That was my goal. And so I started taking painted furniture classes in Memphis, Tennessee from an awesome gal, me and Miss Jones, and she kind of taught me, how you can do a nice finish on furniture. So I started painting furniture, and then my goal was, okay, I want to do custom finishes. So I started doing some custom finishes for people at our church, just people in our community. And I liked it, but I found that, okay, I could pay for groceries, but it was taking a lot of my time. So my husband's day off, well, then I'm leaving the house all day to go paint furniture somewhere. So I still wasn't seeing him, and it was becoming more like, a job instead of I'm a stay-at-home mom and paying for groceries. So I was praying for something that, I still want to make money, use my creativity because I've always enjoyed creating things, be able to still pay for groceries. And then I would say a couple years ago, painting furniture, I got into this giant project in our house when I was like, I'm going to tear out our entire backsplash. And my husband, he's not like a DIY person at all. So he's just kind of like, okay, honey. Well, I tore out the backsplash, and we have this awesome gentleman at church, and he's like, okay, so before you can put up your backsplash, you have to have a countertop down. And I'm like, oh, countertops. Yes. Well, at the time, I wanted concrete countertops. Everyone wants concrete, marble, the fancy things. Well, at the time, the quote I had gotten was over $4,000. And then honestly, that price probably isn't even that bad now. We'd probably all be like, yeah. But then I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, we cannot pay for that. That's off the chart. So I searched for about 4 months long, what can you do with laminate countertops so that they're not just laminate anymore? And I came across a company called Stone Coat Countertops, and it's epoxy, how you can make your countertops look like marble, look like granite, look like concrete through the art of epoxy resin. And so I was like, I can do this because I can paint furniture. So I'm sure I could figure this out. And I took the time. I kind of ruined a couple small pieces. I practiced first. And then I worked myself up, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can do this resin thing. I did it in our kitchen, and it looked awesome. It looked like, how sometimes you have that vision, okay, but then you do it and it's like, oh, that's not what I was picturing in my head. But this time, like the picture in my head came out on our countertop. And so I was so excited. And then after I did our countertops, I wanted coasters to match the countertops. And well, I needed a mold. And at the time, there really were not a lot of molds available. And I knew the people who were using them were all on Instagram. And so I remember I searched Instagram for these molds, and really they were coming directly straight from manufacturers in China to the people on Instagram. So I'm like, okay, I got to start a shop. And I'm going to make this name very simple. It is called Shop Resin Molds. So like, you know what you're doing. Like,
it's so good. It's so good.
Like, it's really simple, but everyone will know if you go there, like, that's what you're doing.
Yep.
So that's what I did. I got the molds from a manufacturer that I found, Google searching, and I just got with them. And now, you know, we have almost 400 molds in the shop. Some are custom to us, and others are just, you know, like a manufacturer will offer all sorts of products. You know, some they've created themselves. And so that's kind of what we offer. Like if they show me something, I'm like, oh, that would be so cute. Then I add it to the shop. So not every single one is a custom product that we design, but we do have some that are.
This is so, like, I love the backstory of it, but I love how you're like, I'm going to go super niche. And a resin mold, not everybody looks for resin molds, right? Like you had to find a specific customer that was looking for this type of a product. And then I was just looking at your Instagram account and you've got over 100,000 followers.
I know, it's okay. So the Instagram thing, it's kind of crazy. Like, I'm like, is that really my account? Like when I post things, I'm like, it's like 100,000 people. That's bigger than the town we live in, you know, that could see, that are going to, I mean, they have the potential to see this. And so I'm like, I reread it quite a bit before I actually hit share, you know. But yeah, the Instagram thing, I remember when like I painted furniture and I wanted so badly to be featured on Instagram by the paint companies that I was using. That's what kind of kept, I think, most painted furniture artists going is, you know, a company sees your work and they feature you on their Instagram page or they share you in their stories. And I gotten a taste of that with some companies. They had featured some of my work and I'm like, that's so neat. And so when I created the shop, I'm like, I can't personally make something with every single mold. Like that's impossible. You know, it's just 5 kids, husband work. I couldn't do that. So I'm like, I'm going to feature anyone who uses our products, the molds, and what they make will always go first because I want it to be about them because that's what I wanted when I painted furniture. And then there's I do say like a swipe right for the product that you can make that, you know, so that you can make to look like what they've already designed. So that's how, is that a good idea?
It is. It is so brilliant. Look at this product that so-and-so made and then swipe right to get the right resin mold.
What I did was I remember I was in bed one night and like my phone kept dinging and dinging. And I was like, I think I'm getting all these like Instagram notifications of like new followers. And my husband's kind of like, you know, he's a man, so he's not really paying much attention. He's like, great job, honey. You know, it's cute. And I'm like, so then I realized I had like 2,000 followers in like pretty quick, maybe a month or so. And I did reach out to influencers and I shipped them molds to use. And I honestly didn't even say like, hey, if you're able to, just if you don't mind sharing, please share that it came from the shop. But if not, no worries, just enjoy it. You know, I kind of approached it like that because at the time I really didn't have money to pay them. So, but I could afford to just ship them something. I had a couple who helped me out. They just said, hey, I got this from, shop Resin Molds. And that helped tremendously to grow. And the number of influencers I work with now is probably, I would say, close to 50 resin artists that have different discount codes for the shop that they're able to then give to their followers to purchase a product. And I will ship them, molds as a thank you so much, because you are supporting my business. So I'm going to support you in any way you need. But yeah, I really just tried to make Instagram all about them, because that's what I wanted when I painted furniture. I wanted it all about myself. Like, tell me how great I painted that piece of furniture. And when you don't get that, it makes you question yourself. Like, am I doing a good job? Is my furniture I painted pretty? Is this one not as cute as the last one I did because they featured that, not this one? So even now with the stories on Instagram, like I try to feature, if there's any tag with the shop, it's going in my Instagram stories for sure. If it's not featured, but I try to just support like all of the Instagram resin artists on Instagram. And I hope they can see that that's reflective in the business itself, that's the point of it, is to support them.
Well, okay. I think we go back. Your influencers, you say you have 50, but I think you have 100,000, because you are taking your customers and making them the influencer, because they're going to share it and be like, oh my gosh, I just got featured. Right. So you've made so many influencers talking about your product, which is pretty darn cool.
That's a great thought. Yeah. I haven't even put it all together. So I love
When did you start? When did you start your Instagram account?
I started the Instagram account in 2019. I started it with 0 followers. It was 0. And the first couple posts, I kind of tried to put I remember taking a picture of some of the molds by like a basket in our nursery. And I was like, okay, this is not cute. Like, if anyone buys this, like, this will be a miracle. So I remember being like, I got to figure something out. And then that's kind of when I was like, okay, I've got to get some to some of these people on Instagram who can use them the way that they're meant to use. And if I can get like 10 at the same time all posting things, I'll just keep featuring their content and make it more about them instead of like, look at this awesome mold that I have in the shop. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. Okay. So number one, how did you find these specific influencers? We're talking about resin molds. So it's super niche. How did you find them?
So what I did was I went to the search bar in Instagram. So there's a search bar and you can search accounts and you can search tags. And so what I did was I searched the hashtag resin artist. And it shows you in like your finder on Instagram, it'll show you the top ranked things for like resin artists for whatever you're searching for. So I clicked on 2 or 3. Couple did not respond at all. But I had no followers and they had like 20,000 followers. So they're just kind of like, no. But I did have one resinista who she's kind of known as like the mother of resin art in Canada. And she has a very large following. And she was like, I'll help you. And I'm like, really? Like, you'll help me? And she's like, yeah. And I only had 5 molds in the shop. And she's like, I haven't tried this flower coaster. I'm like, okay, I'll send it to you. And she's like, okay, that'd be great. So I sent it to her and she made some beautiful resin art with it, coasters, and said she got it from, the shop. And then I think that kind of gave it like validity, like this person who people knew was an artist using it meant like, okay, the shop is okay. You can order from it. You can get a product. You'll be fine. And that she helped out a lot with Instagram. Another artist at the same time, another artist had reached out to me in Canada. And she was like, she's real chatty, and she's just like, who are you? What are you? What are you doing? Where'd you come from? You know, one of those. And I'm like, hey. So my name's Megan, and I have molds. I started the shop, and I had a custom molds at the time that I had designed, and she liked it. She loved it. And she's like, okay, I'm going to do something for you I've never done for anyone. And I'm like, what is it? You know, I'm in like suspense. Like, what are you going to do for me? And she's like, I am going to personally message all of my influencer friends on Instagram that you have this mold and to go buy it. And I was like, what? And I was like, okay. I'm like, that sounds great. And so she did. I mean, and I sold 100 of that custom molds in the weekend in 2 days. Like, I sold out of all of them. They're completely gone in 2 days because that's what she did. And honestly, they weren't even checking out through my Shopify site. I'm just PayPal invoicing all of these people. And then that really got like, oh, she's got this mold. No one else has it. You know, everyone then wanted it because all of the influencers on Instagram they all had it. So that's probably what really helped also.
I love it. You skipped the whole newbie. Like, you were brand new, reaching out to influencers, thinking you're way too small. And you got an influencer to say yes. And then you skipped all of the newbie stuff and you became an authority right away because, what did you say? Resinista is her name?
Yes, Resinista in Canada. Yes.
She was shouting you out and automatically you became an authority. And I think that, like, I love influencers, even if they're not like specifically saying, go buy this product, just them talking about your brand helps elevate you so quickly. And they did it. And then there is the whole network of influencers that are friends that talk to each other. And you just spiraled through there and you helped deliver such an amazing product to them. Oh, this story is just so fun. So fun.
I'm really thankful for Resinista and Lux Art, who also, like, without those two, it's so funny too. Cause I think when you start something, you're like, well, I'm here in Arkansas and, you know, they're in Canada, and it's just like your mind can't even kind of go that far. It's like, okay, yeah, I can get these to Canada. But even though you're really not sure how you're going to do it, you know, like, sure, we can make all this happen. Yeah.
You learn how. Like, right before we talked, you're figuring out how to ship to Australia now. Like,
you're right.
We say yes, and then we go figure it out.
Yes. And that's one of the things I love about, like, your program, because so I didn't have you when I first started. I was like, oh my goodness, if I had just had Alison's program.
You're so sweet.
Before I started this entire process, I would have saved so much time. I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, I learned so much. I had my business, you know, it was running and it was profitable, but I knew that there was still so much that could be learned. And that's why, like, I got into the 0 to 100K marketplace, because I'm like, I know I'm missing pieces. Like, I've kind of just jumbled different random YouTube videos together and smushed them in a ball and piece things together. But if you've done it, you've walked it, you know the path to success with your businesses that you've sold. And when I went through your program, I was like, oh my goodness, such a time saver. Like, if everyone should really just start here.
You're so great. You're so great. I think I started because I felt so lonely when I got started. And so I wanted to create something that I wish I had when I first got started. And now I look at it and I'm like, I get to talk to people like you. This is like such a dream for me. And we get to geek out over Instagram numbers and shipping to Australia and shipping to Canada. And just to have someone to talk to that likes to geek out about this stuff. I don't know. It's just super fun. I love how it's all come. So I'm so glad you came into this world and I get to know you and I get to talk to you. And now we get to share your story with everybody. Like, this is such a fun story. Okay, but let's turn it back to you, because I like talking about you. Okay, so how many times are you posting on Instagram?
So I love Instagram, but that is like, I listened to your podcast about the queen of social media. And, you know, she says she gets in and she gets out. Like, that's what I do with Instagram. Yes. So I'm like, that's honestly what I do with Instagram is I get in and I get out. Like I see what should be featured. I feature them, and I do have a system. So like I have a note section in my phone for the hashtags that I'm going to be used. So I'm copying and pasting virtually. I may adjust it at the end of those same hashtags to every post because my content's going to be the same.
Did you see the update with hashtags? Sorry to cut you off, but did you see that we only need 3 to 5 now?
Really? No, I did not know this. When did that happen?
I just heard about it today. So go research it. It's only 3 to 5 that you need. Okay. And the first 3 are supposed to be like smaller. Like don't have as like 20 to 100,000. And then the other 2 can be like big, huge hashtags. Okay. But that's the strategy now. And you don't put it in the first post. You put it in the content area, like your caption area. So check that out because that's a new thing that's rolling out. And
I need to know this.
It goes so fast. It goes so fast.
Like always changing. So I'm guessing then those first 1 or 2 hashtags needs to be the most important of all the hashtags. Okay.
Yep. And if you can put any of those hashtags up in your bio, like I'm sure you can put resin in both places, it just puts you higher in the algorithm.
Okay.
So I watched a bunch of YouTube videos and talked to some people on Instagram about it who are like experts in Instagram today. And I was like, that's so cool. So good to know this stuff, right?
Okay. I'm making mental notes for my next Instagram post this afternoon.
I know you just got to stay up on it. Like like I said before, like this is so fun to talk about.
I post 3 times a day, but I always have my stories completely full. Like you will never see an empty story. And a story can be very simple because if you have someone who's using your product, it's going to show up in your message box. And literally all you have to do is click add to story, that's it. And hashtag them. So it goes back to them. My stories are always full. And then my highlights are also always full. And I have one for like reviews from the shop, unboxings, because they really like to, open their resin molds and show how fun they are and what they can make. And then I also have highlights for new products in the shop. And then I have just one for like videos. So if you're just kind of looking for a tutorial video, you can click on that and see how some artists have used the molds.
Love it. I love how organized it is. So when people land on your Instagram page, they know exactly like, oh my gosh, what does it look like when I unbox? Oh my goodness, what are the new products? Like it sounds so simple for people to just come in and find out what your products are. So we've talked about how Instagram or influencers help to grow your business quite a bit. Can we switch it to your next secret weapon, Zulily? I want to talk about that strategy.
Yeah. So I found out about Zulily when I joined your 5-day sprint. This was, I guess it would have been last year. Yeah, last year. And all I know is I heard you say Zulily and I was like, okay, I'm going. Like, sometimes business decisions, like you go back and you go forth and you can't decide, but I heard you say that. I'm like, I'm going there. Like, I want that. And so I contacted them and yes, I got in and it took some setup time. Like there is some setup time. There is some Excel spreadsheeting going on that I'd never used.
Like 1990 technology. Like it is so tedious, but okay, keep going. Like it's totally worth it. Totally worth it.
Yes, it is. So that took some like brain power for me because I would rather just post pretty things on Instagram than work on an Excel spreadsheet. But I was like, I'm going to do it. So I did. And with Zulily, I think they were wonderful. I mean, the buyer was like, look, we care more about, you having several products than you having like 100 of one product. Because I think I did have 100 of just one product, but I had several products where I had like 10. I had 15. I didn't have a huge quantity of any one product. And so my first event, we got it up and going. It was before Thanksgiving last year. The event did over $4,000 in like 3 or 4 days. And like, I was like, this is amazing, you know? And then we had a little gap because they got very busy, you know, with holiday sales, December, the new year, they're very busy. And then they got me into just their rotation. So we just kind of run events. I mean, like every week, like we just run events all day long with Zulily, and they've been great. Even their cost, I mean, they will work with you on some of your costs. They say what a buyer will tell you what they're going to pay you, but you can negotiate some. It's not all this.
Yeah.
It's not all cut and dry, especially if you have an established relationship with them. There can be a little bit of negotiating with them, and they've been great. I mean, especially they have done a pre-buy with us where
Nice.
that is, you know, where they pre-buy your inventory, and so you're shipping everything to them, but they pay you up front for the inventory, and then they just sell it as, you know, whenever they want. And that was amazing. I was like, okay. So I love that. We had another pre-buy in the works, but their fulfillment centers were too full to get all the inventory. But what the buyer did was she just ran us like every day for an entire month, never took us off. And we went through the inventory. So it worked out just fine. But yeah, Zulily has been, I mean, they've been amazing to work with. Like,
yeah, some
wonderful.
people are imitated by them because they think they're too big or you have to have millions and millions of products. And it's not that way. Like, I love how you're like, I only had 10 of, I wasn't deep on my product. You were more wide on your product and a bigger selection.
Yes, that's exactly right. I had a few of like everything. I didn't have a lot of one thing. I just didn't. And I know like the artists I work with on Instagram, they always want a new mold. Like they always want something new. So I tend to carry just a lot of products instead of just selling the same super cute t-shirt over and over and over again, because they always want the newest, cutest thing so that they can then create something and sell it at their art shows and the different fairs that they do throughout the year.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but you're still niched. It's not like you're creating shoes and then hot pads. Like, it's all within the resin mold area. And so
yes.
I love that you're not getting, and when I talk about wide, it's just wide within your like super niched product.
If you go to zulily.com, they have a special little tab that will say like vendor application. And so you go to that vendor application and you fill it out, and they want to know, they're going to want you to have a shop of some sort. And they're going to want to know your sales, because for them, they have to know that you are making some money, because, you know, they need to make money too. So they're going to want your URL. They're going to want to know an estimate of your sales. And they're also going to want to know, you know, just what you're selling and how long you've been established and things like that. So, I mean, I filled it out, and I mean, I got an email that day that was like from a buyer that was like, we would love to work with you. So it was a pretty simple process. It could be
fast.
because I'm very,
really fast.
I'm very like there's not a huge world that's selling resin molds. So that could be what also helped me. I was kind of on the front of it. A lot of my main competitors are honestly probably factories in China that sell on Amazon. You know, those are really what I compete with. So yeah, but Zulily has been great. I mean, I would recommend anyone working with them. They've been absolutely wonderful. And they will contact you and be like, hey, do you have something new? And I'm like, yeah, I've just started working with an artist who she makes her own like terrazzo chips that are made out of clay and resin, and you can pour them into resin. And I told her, I'm like, hey, can you come down on the price that I'm buying these from you for, so that I can get them with a large vendor? She kind of hesitated a little, but she was like, I can do it. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's see what they say. And they accepted it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's so cool. Like now we have, a US artist who's taking all of her time to make this stuff. And now they're selling on Zulily. And she sold quite a few. And I'm hoping we can just kind of it's kind of a 3-step relationships. Like she's making them, I'm buying them, I'm selling them to Zulily, and then they're now selling them to a customer somewhere. But it works, and she's super thrilled. And I'm excited for her, because then I can order something that's not just from, it's made here local, which is so neat. I love that part.
So cool. So cool. You're blessing your business, her business, and your customers' lives. Like that's a total 3-way win. Okay. So you've built this amazing business. What is your family saying about it? Your kids, your husband, like how's that impacted your life?
Yeah. So my husband's kind of like shocked, I would say. Like so we drink beer, we're Lutheran, and there's been like 2 times in his life he has spit out his beer. And I remember one was when I told him I was pregnant with our 5th kid, and he spit out his beer. And the other time was when I told him, like, I want to be the largest resin mold supplier in the world. And he spit out his beer, because at the time, like, I didn't have a sale. Like, there was no sales. It was just an idea that I hadn't done yet. And he spit out his beer. And now he's more like, okay, yeah, like this is more like a real thing. You're actually making some profit here. So he's a lot more, he was always very supportive, but he just needed to see that it was real, because in his defense, I've made a lot of like, I'm going to paint furniture. I'm going to sell on eBay, like I've done a lot of different things. So that's probably why he was like, okay, yes, honey, I love you, whatever you want to do. And our kids, they love it. They help me ship orders. And I told them this story of your girls with the scarves. And so now our kids, they love poppets, that every child loves right now. And they begged me, Mommy, can we please have our own store for these sensory toys? And so I said yes. So we have a closet full of sensory and fidget toys. And they have a little shop. We've sold quite a few on Mercari, which I also only learned about through your entire program. Had no idea that thing even existed. And that's actually going very well. I did set them up a Shopify store recently. But they get a lot of sales on Mercari right now. So I'm like, I'm kind of going back and forth. I told them, you guys have to make your $30 in profit, and I'll open your Shopify store, because then it'll pay for itself for a month. And that's what they did. And that's kind of where we're at. We're working on getting that first Shopify store sale, and it has not happened yet, but we're going to keep going.
That's so fun. I love the ripple effect. I love that your husband spitting out his beer. Like, oh man, there's been times where Jared, if he was a beer drinker, he'd totally spit out his beer on the things that I said that I'm going to do. He's like, what? But they love us. They want to support us, but we just have these big dreams. So I love it. And it's going to be so fun to hear the 3rd time he spits out his beer, when you're like, okay, we did it. We're the largest resin supplier in the world.
We did over the world, dear. We did it. I'll be like, okay.
I love it. So good. Well, thank you so much for all that you shared. I was taking lots of notes. You went over Instagram, how you're posting, how you really have 100,000 influencers who are talking about your product, and you're not having to come up with all this crazy content. They're just doing it for you when you're swiping. And then how to get on Zulily, which has been, some people think it's just a big secret. And I'm like, it's not. It's amazing. Get over there. The first part does feel like 1990s, and you got to learn Excel spreadsheet.
Yes. And I was just going to say, Zulily does have a new, Zulily and their vendor portal, they do have a new pop feature. And it does look more like, it looks more similar to a pick your plum vendor portal now. So you can just upload a product singly. Like if you're going to bed at night and you're like, you know what, I'm going to upload a new product. Like you can do that without having to set at your laptop for 2 hours and focus, because that's what I had to do the first time I wanted to be on Zulily. And then you can still do bulk uploads. And I do have Amy, who works with me now, and her background is in accounting. So, I mean, she was like made for Excel, like God delivered an Excel spreadsheet woman, like to my front door. This is the most amazing thing ever. Like, that's exactly what I needed. That's just not my like God talent gifts. It's not my expertise.
Very few have that talent. Very, very few. I think we've all had to learn it, suffer through it, actually.
Yes.
Okay, so where can people find you?
Oh, okay. So I'm at shopresinmolds.com. That is Shop Resin Molds on Instagram, Shop Resin Molds on Pinterest. We also have a Shop Resin Molds Facebook page and a Shop Resin Molds Facebook group page that you can also.
Thank you for sharing. You were so gracious. That was such good information.
Yeah, thank you. And Alison, I have one more secret traffic source for your audience.
Let's do it.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I discovered the secret traffic source when I was painting furniture, and I wanted to figure out like, how can I get, a quick audience to a blog? And anyways, the secret traffic source that's amazing to work with, and they love to work with you, and they're huge, is hometalk.com. And they work with bloggers. They will work with shop owners. And it's great if you're in the DIY sector. So for instance, I'll name some big names that are on Home Talk. Dixie Belle Paint Company is on Home Talk. Amy Howard at Home is on Home Talk. And what Home Talk will do for you is if you upload 3 just simple tutorials. So 3 tutorials, they will feature you and to their email list, to their millions of subscribers. And it can literally bring in over 1,000 people in one day to your shop. I mean, and not only that, but like I have orders that come to our shop, and the direct traffic source is hometalk.com because they saw that tutorial and they want to buy the product to make it. So that's the secret traffic source. I think
you for sharing that.
Really be blown up, used correctly. And they also have Food Talk, and they also have Upstyle. So anyone who's into clothing, jewelry, it does need to be kind of DIY somehow, not fully, but just somehow. And same with food. If you're a recipe person, I mean, they have Food Talk, and it's a great way to start getting eyes on your shop for free, which is the hardest thing to do, I think.
Oh man, I'm going to go Google that now. I've worked with them on the blogger side to help them promote to our list. But I've never worked with them on the shop side. So that's huge. I've loved working with that company. They've been phenomenal.
Yes,
so
they
thank
are
you
amazing.
so much.
And they also have affiliate programs. So like they will actually pay you for it when people click on different links that are in the content that you made. I mean, they'll pay you, which, I mean, how amazing is that? I'm like, thank you for my $44 from last month.
Oh, so good. So good. Thank you for adding that in there. I'm glad you did. I'm going to make it.
Thanks. Okay. I'm sorry. I'll leave you alone now.
So good. Awesome, Megan. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yes, I appreciate you too. Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
So much about Megan's business success and journey. And one of my biggest takeaways is from the beginning, like from the very beginning, how she wanted to make her business about other people. Her own experience of wanting to be featured on social media for her furniture painting led her to decide to highlight and celebrate the resin artists who used her products. It was so good for those artists and so good for those sales. And it even helps her save time while maintaining an amazing Instagram presence, and growing tremendously. So here are the top 10 takeaways that you might want to think about for your own business. Here we go. Number 1, do your research. Number 2, remember there can be riches in the niches. You say it niches or niches? I still don't even know. Number 3, feature your followers. Number 4, serve your influencers. 5, consider a wide, not deep approach with product inventory. Number 6, get in, post, and get out of social media. Number 7, try new selling avenues. Number 8, look for ways to bless other businesses. Number 9, keep setting big goals. Number 10, teach others what you've learned. And I want to add an 11, take your Instagram to as many followers as you can dream about. Anyway, I hope you loved that podcast episode with Megan and took massive, massive notes. I know I did. It was such a treat, such a gift to have her on. And she blessed us all with all that great information. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day. And I'll see you next week. Oh, one other thing. Don't forget, go up and follow this podcast and leave a review. I would love to hear what you have to say. I read those. And then we take those responses and we turn them into future podcast episodes. The top ones that I think that need to be addressed. I get a lot of it from that feedback from there. And then also in my 0 to 100K Facebook group. All right, go out there, make that money. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.